Did you know the LA Kings have their own culinary partner? It's Superfood, celebrating 10 years and over 1 million meals served. Since 2020, the Kings have trusted Superfood to fuel their players. Now through Simply Lunch, you can bring that same performance-driven food to your office. Because when people eat better, they work better. Visit mysuperfood.com. That's mysuperfd.com. Or call 213-973-6145. Qualified companies can enjoy a free lunch for up to 10 managers.
You're listening to All the Kings Men, the official podcast of the LA Kings. Now, here's your host, Jesse Cohen.
All right, it's Monday morning. That means it's time to crown a King of the Week. And joining me to help out this week from the fourth period, Dave Pagnotta. How are you doing today, Dave?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. You know, it's funny. I've known you for a few years now, but I've never actually double-checked. It's Pagnotta? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
It's close. It's Pagnotta.
Pagnotta. Okay,
yes.
So it's the more Italian blending of the G and the N. Pagnotta. All right.
Yes.
I will do that in the future.
That's it's fine. That's the non-Italian but closest to it way
sure.
to say. So
sure.
Just makes it easy.
I try to pronounce names the way I think they should be pronounced. So Pagnotta. All right, appreciate it. Okay, so you were even though you were not based out of LA routinely, you were at all three games that we are covering this week, and they include a loss to the Washington Capitals, a loss to the Chicago Blackhawks, and then that 6-0 victory over the Chicago Blackhawks Saturday night. So I thought you were particularly situated to help me out, having witnessed firsthand all three games. So I told you the routine and the drill. So we're going to start out with you. Your honorable mention this week for King of the Week.
Honorable mention would looking at the way that they've played this week. For me, I like what Brandt Clarke has been doing. The way his game has been evolving, more responsibility, a little more sound in the defensive end, and that's always great when that's your position. But also obviously contributing, and of course the two goals that he scored on Saturday were, the nice little confidence booster for him from the offensive side of things. I think the whole team got a nice boost off that. But I like the way that his game is starting to shape up overall, and more minutes, more responsibility at both ends of the ice. So for me, I'm throwing Brandt Clarke in that mix.
That's an excellent pick. And you know what? I wouldn't have thought to check this, but since you mentioned it, he actually averaged 20 minutes and 33 seconds of ice time over those three games, which is first on the team. I would not have thought to check that. I would have not have guessed it if you gave me a chance. But 9 seconds more per game than Drew Doughty. And, I haven't talked to you about it directly, Dave, but it's certainly been a conversation here over the last few months and years, and that if Brandt Clarke is ever going to become the player that he was drafted to become and that they talk about him as being, at some point he has to play more minutes. And so to lead the team over a 3-game stretch, he's certainly playing more minutes than I would have thought with the return of Drew Doughty to the lineup.
Yeah, and we know, I guess we're not used to it anymore, but for a long time, the whole notion of a defenseman, you're going to be it's going to take you longer than certainly forwards to develop at the NHL level. And certain guys, you go right in there. Not everybody's Matthew Schaefer out on Long Island, but it's going to take you a little bit of time to kind of get acclimated. And certain guys just need that time. And especially if you're trying to bring, a guy to a level that is responsible at both ends, can play a full game, can play in multiple different type of scenarios, it's going to take a little bit longer. And it's not that the trust isn't there or wasn't there. That's just the nature of the beast. Some guys take a little bit longer to adjust, and you want to be able to put them in positions to succeed and then have them earn that extra ice time. I think he's certainly done that so far this season, and especially over this little stretch at home, we've seen, again, more responsibility coming from him. So I think that's going to continue. Certainly it should. He's earning it. And the confidence is there too. And that's such a big key for any player, but especially, somebody in his early 20s.
Now, both of his goals came in that Chicago game, that 6-0 Chicago game. But over the 3-game stretch, at all strengths, he was, higher than 64% on shot attempts control. He's on the ice for 3 goals for, 2 goals against. But I mean, in a week where they only allowed, what, 4 goals, I think, and 3 of them came in the Washington game. Pretty good week for Brant Clark. 2 goals, no assists, +1. And again, in 20 minutes and 33 seconds of ice time, unbelievable. My honorable mention was Warren Fogle. And not
Mm-hmm.
only did he also have 2 points, but I thought that the most important part of the week for him, I found this quote that he gave to Zach Dooley. He said, "One thing I noticed from watching games is it feels like when we're down goals, we're really more on our toes. I felt like last year that was a lot of our success was being on our toes. I don't know if we're trying to sit back or anything like that, but it feels like when we're trailing, we keep things much simpler and we're trying to score a goal. So maybe if we have that mindset to start the game, it might be a lot easier for us." That's not like a terribly damning statement, Dave, but he
Mm-hmm.
gave that statement after the 2-1 loss to the Blackhawks, which I thought was a very upsetting loss. And Jim Hiller said it was the first time this year that he's been disappointed in his team.
Yeah.
So for that kind of comment from a player to then come out and score the first goal in the next game
Mm-hmm.
on what was, now he wasn't the one who went into the corner. Dano and Moore went into the corner, but he was the one wide open and who just blasted the puck. He didn't catch and wait for a second before firing it. He was already cocked and loaded before the pass got to him. I just thought that was really important. Like if you're good, there's a million situations in life where if you're gonna run your mouth, and I don't think he was running his mouth per se, but if you're gonna say something, you have to back it
Right.
up. And for him to say it and
Absolutely.
then back it up, I thought was tremendous. Not only that, but he came back after an injury. He went straight back into the lineup, and he did wind up with 2 points on the week. So for me, the honorable mention is Warren Fogle.
Yeah, look, you've got to be able to, if step up, especially if you're dishing it
Hmm.
out. You've got to be able to step up and own it, and answer for it and answer to it, and that's what he did. I think even after the game, the 6-0 game on Saturday, a couple guys like both Clark and Turcotte both said, "Look, the mindset has been different lately because." Obviously goal scoring has been an issue. These guys admitted we're just gripping our sticks too tight. We're not playing with the same level of intensity that we should over a full 60. And, to see a guy who criticized himself, his team, a couple games prior or a game prior to Saturday on Thursday, to answer, to be able to step up. And I think he played a pretty good game that entire game. It wasn't just the goal that highlight. I mean, that's the highlight, but he played a sound game throughout it. I think that line with Dano and Moore just had a really good game as well. And in fact, that's what Clark admitted, that Fogel's goal was what kind of just got them going a little bit. And then it really picked up after Kuzmenko scored on the power play,
Hmm.
which they've made some adjustments to recently. So to see some of these guys, to see a guy like Fogle, who's he's veteran presence, he's been in pressure cooker situations before. He's a guy that you're counting on to have in that line with Dano and Moore to be able to be a presence out there, to answer the bell that he's ringing. Was nice to see, and again, I think that line was a pretty solid line all game long and on Saturday.
It's funny, both the Kuzmenko goal and the Fogle goal, I'm not sure that they were like intentional. I don't think that either one was what the player intended to have happen. Fogle was like almost falling down when he got the shot
Right,
off, and it
right.
looked like maybe Spencer Knight thought it was going somewhere else, and then it happened to go between his legs. But it
Yeah,
just goes to shit. It's one of the reasons I always encourage fans to yell shoot, despite the fact that a lot of people disagree with me, because you never know, right? I mean, it's as simple as that, right? You cannot score.
yeah.
It's the famous Wayne Gretzky quote: "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." And Warren Fogle got the puck on net. It wound up in the back of the net. And then shortly after that, Andrei Kuzmenko, right, makes a move, forces the puck on
Mm-hmm.
net, and it winds up bouncing off the guy's arm. So boom, 2-0. So good. I'm glad. All right. So we agree on that. So that was my honorable mention. Dave, your runner up then.
Uh, my runner up is Trevor Moore.
Okay.
Um, yeah, for me, what he's been doing in the last 7-8 games, it looks like he's starting to come into his own again. Being that the player that they've counted on the last few years, to be, and he's been criticized for, and honestly, rightfully so. I've done it as well, for his performance this season. But to see this stretch again, not just this week, but the full stretch where he's contributing more offensively, he's starting to see the back of the net a little more often. He had that lone goal in the loss on Thursday. He's been being a little bit more mobile, and then again, just having that line starting to succeed a little bit more is a good thing for the Kings. But for me, seeing what Moore has been doing over this stretch would put me in that would have me put him in that position as a runner-up for this week.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and which means I suspect we're going to have the same King of the Week because I went back and forth between Trevor Moore and my ultimate pick for King of the Week. Trevor Moore, and you sort of touched on it when we were talking about Foegele. The balance of the lines, the way they were at the end of last year, needed to be maintained in some form or another going into this year in order for, I think, for it to be successful. And getting that Danault, Moore, and Foegele line playing the way that they are, quote unquote, meant to play, in my mind, is hugely important. And it's funny. It's not even the goal that Moore scored or the assist that he got on Fogel's goal last night. To me, the Trevor Mooriest play that he had all week was in setting up the Kempe goal in the Washington game. Because
Yeah.
the puck is down in the Kings defensive zone. Brandt Clarke makes the pinch along the boards. Trevor Moore's active stick creates the turnover, and then he quickly moves it up ice to Anze Kopitar, who finds Adrian Kempe. It was a great play by Kempe and Kopitar, but none of it happens without Trevor Moore or Brandt Clarke. Brandt Clarke didn't get an assist on the play, obviously, but yeah, Trevor Moore is starting to make board plays, corner plays, active stick plays, creating turnovers. That Foegele goal to me is exactly, I think I said this last night, exactly the kind of play that you want to see from that line where three guys are forechecking, they're putting pressure on, you create a turnover, and before you know it, all three Kings players are below the opponent's defense.
Yeah.
And they've got one guy or no guys to beat, and it turns into a goal at, almost out of nothing. And in order for all of that to work, you need Trevor Moore using all of his tools. So I agree with you 100%. Trevor Moore then becomes the runner-up. And so then, like I said, probably removing all the mystery, who then is your King of the Week?
For me, it's the guy who's been keeping them in games, especially when they can't score too many.
Sure, yeah.
Pulled out the nice little shutout on Saturday, deservingly.
Yep.
Darcy Kuemper.
Yeah.
Certainly, look, it can be a lot when you're not scoring, and doing whatever he can to keep his team in it as much as he can. For me, makes this one, especially this week, a no-brainer for the top guy of the week. I mean, look, he's been great. He's been solid. He didn't have, especially the last couple, the one against Chicago, the two against Chicago. I was just kind of waiting. I thought maybe I didn't expect 6-0, but I thought maybe this would be a nice opportunity for him to step up even more and get that shutout. He earned it. He claimed it, and he pulled it off. But to see what he did this past week, keeping his numbers at the top of the ranks in the NHL among goaltenders, top 10 overall in both save percentage and goals against. But I think he's top 5. I have to double check, but I think he's top 5 among the starters in the National Hockey League. So putting up another really good performance so far this season. This week, he's kept them in him, and for me, he's the King of the Week.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I also picked Darcy Kuemper. 3 games, 1 win and 2 losses, which is the 2 losses not his fault, right? He did everything he could. 83 saves, or 79 saves on 83 shots against, 952 save percentage, 1.37 goals against, 1 shutout, and I don't know if it's that big a deal, but like Dave, one of the most insane parts is in the one game where he had the shutout, he wasn't a star of the game.
Right. Yeah. I know.
It's just, I don't know.
That was surprising.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Meanwhile, the first Chicago game, they lose 2-1. I guess you can't make him a star of that game, but I thought he played incredibly well.
Yep.
And if they are going to turn this around, and I, mentioned last night, I think that I'm hoping that this becomes, or the previous loss to Chicago, I'm hoping that becomes a catalyst, and that 3 months from now we'll look back on it and we'll go, oh yeah, remember that one night when everybody thought the sky was falling, and to be clear, I mean, I was disappointed. That was a terrible game, but
Yes.
Hopefully this is where it turns around. And, you mentioned Darcy Kemper in the top ranks of all the league. Last year he was a Vezina finalist, and the only reason I think this year it might not happen, not because I think he's playing substantially worse, but just because there's like a handful of other goalies who are also playing really well. This is,
Yeah.
again, totally out of his control.
It is, but I think one of the things that might amplify that spotlight a little bit more this season for him, the Olympics.
Oh,
Canada,
sure, yeah.
Canada's got some question marks in net. I think Jordan Binnington's the only guy going as a lock, and they've got a question mark. They got question marks with the others. Sam Montembeault has, I think, played himself off. Aiden Hill's been injured, so he hasn't really done obviously too much. And they got two slots that are open. I think Darcy Kemper's right in that mix right now for consideration for Canada for the Olympics.
I mean, it would be fascinating, and there's definitely some people who have argued that he should be. I found a clip, I think it was from the Steve Dangle podcast, where they gave four names and they said, okay, pick three to go to Team Canada out of the four names. And the names were Kemper, Hill, or maybe not Hill, maybe Kemper, Thompson, um, no, I forget now. I'm ruining the bit. But the point is, they all picked Kemper. All of them picked Kemper to be one of
Yeah.
the three names, whether it was to be the third backup that never plays or to be the backup or the starter. Like all three guys on the Steve Dangle show picked Kemper. And the fact that he's routinely not sort of mentioned is a bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think internally he is. I think you're looking at guys and Scott Wedgwood, what he's been doing in Colorado has been great. You mentioned obviously Thompson, Logan
Mhm.
Thompson doing some really good things too. But then to have that veteran presence of a Darcy Kemper, I think would hold a lot of weight for the Canadians. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him in one of the three. I think Binnington, Thompson, Kemper for me is probably the what I would do at this point. They still got the rest of the month to figure it out. But I think from Canada's side of things, they're a little bit more comfortable right now in their goaltending position than I think maybe a month ago, just because of how well he's continuously played.
Are you at all familiar with the social media account? I forget what he calls himself. It's not the goalie guru, but it's something like that. But there's this very angry man and he shows up on my social media and he just rants and raves about how goaltending is a myth and it's all about the team and there's no such thing as a good goalie. And I'm just fascinated by him.
I mean, let's see. Patrick Waugh is probably going to disagree with
Well,
you on
so he
that.
he always
Ken
points
Dryden.
to he always points to Brodeur and Waugh as like, and he always claims that he's got proof finally that he's right, and then he throws something out, and I'm like, well, it's an interesting argument, but I wouldn't say it's proof. Like,
Yeah, I don't. I mean, Dominic Hasek,
yeah,
Eddie Belfour. We're going into the '90s. Like, goaltending is look. If you're being let out to dry consistently, and this is one of the things I've been saying about the Edmonton Oilers, for example,
hmm
their goalies have been let out to dry. There was a game, I think they lost 9-3 to Dallas a week or two ago. I think three of those goals were within 10 feet of the net, and
right,
the Stars player was untouched. There was
yeah.
nobody in his vicinity. So I don't care if you're Dominic Hash, Patrick Waugh, or Marty Brodeur, or whomever, you're not stopping that. So in those circumstances, you need your team to help bail you out here. And at least to put in some type of effort to apply some pressure. But you can't tell me that a goalie can't steal you a game, and it's by fluke. Like these guys are ridiculously talented. It's a very tough position to play, and to see what Kemper has been able to do lately, more
hmm
so than the rest of the season, it gives his team a chance to win. At least the way he's playing right now, every night. And you want to see a little bit more than one goal a game, and we definitely saw that Saturday.
Yep.
But if they can add that confidence to their arsenal here on this road trip and get some more W's going with some more goals, it's just going to make the whole team that much more. They can puff their chest up a little bit better, knowing that they've not just the goaltender behind them, but also the offense starting to roll now.
Yeah. Well, we both agree on Darcy Kemper, so congratulations, Darcy Kemper, this week's King of the Week. So Dave, part of the appeal of having you on is that you generally speaking, we pull from the LA Kings, regular media pool, and everybody knows the storylines and everybody knows the rumor and the gossip and the fan opinions, and everybody's in the same ecosystem. But, you are here a few times a year at least, and, obviously everybody knows you, but from a national perspective, from all the way out there in Toronto, in the hub of the hockey world, what is the take on the Kings? Because I think well, I don't want to say internal, but I think the local attitude is like pretty good, but could be better.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what things are on the national scale as well. Like this is a good team, but notice how I said good. Like there was a little
Yeah.
bit of hesitation, and like they can be a very good team. And I think the anticipation going into this season now, look, they're not going out there. They're not going out and getting superstar after superstar. I think I liked a lot of the moves that they made in the offseason for what they were trying to do. I like the addition of Corey Perry.
Hmm.
And if you can plant the net like you did Saturday every game, that's huge, and will work more often than not in your favor, quite favorably. I like the addition of Yoel Armia. You bring in somebody for that fourth line for the most part, even though he's interchangeable. But you got a guy who can be responsible defensively, and then of course Dumoulin and Ceci on the back end, because I think a lot of this was rounding up this team to be more responsible defensively, and because the offensive weapons that you've got, especially in your top six, with the evolution of Clark's game on the back end, and you have Drew, that this would be a well-balanced team. Obviously, the offensive struggles have caught a lot of people off guard, and that's why it's like you're a good team, but you got to really get going here to be a really good team. Like I have them in the playoffs from the start of the season. I had them, in that mix, and I think that was the notion nationally as well, that this playoff team. But to what degree are they going to kind of evolve into this season? And I think again, nice to see Kuzmenko get on the board and
Hmm.
Moore's play of late. And it's been nice to see, even though he's snake bitten, like you know what, but Phil Deneau has been getting his chances the last couple of games. It's just not working. Not yet anyway. But those three guys, I think they were counted on to be that were going to provide a lot more offensively. And it's starting to come about. So I think there's a lot of runway here. Plus, we're not even at the halfway point. We're 30% of the way into the season. There's still a lot of hockey to go. But I think overall, from a national side of things, it's like this is a good team, but can they take those other steps and be a really good team? That's what I think we're all waiting on.
It's a weird double-edged sword this season when it comes to missed opportunities because the gap between first place and fourth place
Yep.
is the same size as the gap between fourth place and last place.
Right.
Like there's only one good team, and then after that, you can kind of argue if you want that Dallas, is pretty good. You got Washington, Carolina, but frankly, I'm not sure I believe in Washington and Carolina. Who knows? And then you've got Anaheim and Minnesota. I mean, like there's a lot of new teams on the stage. There's a lot of old teams that have
Mm-hmm.
reliable, I don't want to say flaws, but like we know what happens to Carolina, right? They get everybody's
Yeah.
hopes up and then they get defeated by the same monster every year. So like how do you tell who's good? If a team isn't the Colorado Avalanche, how do you even know if a team's good this year?
Yeah. I mean, I throw Dallas in that mix as well. I put Colorado and Dallas
Okay.
in a very similar. I mean, 1-2 Colorado, then Dallas, but I put them at the cream of the crop in the National Hockey League right now.
Hmm.
And then there's a group of others that I throw in that mix as well. Like Tampa's starting to get into that tier.
Hmm.
I think New Jersey was until Jack Hughes went out, which also shows you how important he really is to that team. But fully healthy, I think New Jersey is probably in that mix as well. And then Carolina, just because they're a really good regular season team.
Yeah, they're always there.
Yeah, but something always happens
Hmm.
in the first or second round for them. I know the conference final a little while ago, but there's just not enough to get over that hump that we've seen. And then back in the West, I throw kind of Vegas there and then you've got the next tier, which is where everybody's kind of bundled up. And usually around the quarter to 30% mark of the season is when we start to see the gap starting to widen from the playoff bound teams and the bottom feed teams. And there's few bottom feeders right now. Because of how much talent's across the league, it's like, okay, I think we're now at a point where once we get to the halfway point, that's when you start separating the big boys from the bottom feeder clubs. Mm-hmm. It's just the way the league has changed and evolved over the last little bit. We're starting to see it's taking longer for that gap to be evident. And, you're right. Like there's the fourth to eighth, the bottom, just how far those teams are, how close those teams are. You're going to see which ones kind of drop more afterwards, later than we're normally used to, which, is sometimes it just takes some teams a little bit longer now to start getting going because there's so much competition and so much quality competition out there.
I said this early in the year to John Kelly and Jim Fox. I think it's made even more uncomfortable for some of the, middle of the pack good teams, that when you look at the standings and you see Montreal leading the Atlantic, the Islanders in the top three in the Metropolitan, Pittsburgh in a playoff spot, Philadelphia in a playoff spot, Anaheim, in a playoff spot, the Kraken, the Blackhawks, the Oilers all fighting for playoff spots. And then you look and you've got the Jets, the Blues, the Flames, you've got Toronto, Florida, the Devils all out of playoff spots. I think it just makes it that much more confusing when you look at the standings. Like if it's everybody that you thought would be there and your team is for whatever reason struggling, you go, all right, well, we know the mountain we have to climb. But when there's teams that you're like, wait, what are they doing there? What, like, are they like, if you're in the Pacific Division and you're going, okay, fine, Vegas is in first place, but Anaheim's in second place.
Right.
And Edmonton's not even a playoff spot, and I have to be worried about Edmonton coming from down the ladder up to catch me from behind. Seattle is suddenly in a wild card. Like, what the heck is going on? It just gets very unsettling, I think.
Yeah, and that's just it. We just have to get used to the first half of the season is going to be like that. Everybody's going to be kind of jumbled up together, and then second half, then we see the team start to distance themselves and go, okay, it's time to play big boy hockey now because. We can't afford, like normally if some of these teams are on the outside and at this position, it's like, okay, well they're in, the Florida Panthers aren't in it. They're playing 500 hockey, but
right.
They're 12 points out of a playoff spot. Well, that's not the case. They're, near the bottom in the East, but they're only 4 points out or 5 points out. It's just
three, as it turns out.
Yeah. 3. Right. So like, it's which is crazy. Normally teams in that position, you're like, all right, it's time to start thinking about next season. We just got to accept the fact that there's better hockey being played all over the league. And it's going to take a little bit longer. Calgary won the other night in a game they probably shouldn't have, but they pulled off a W. And, some teams get stuck in that false hope mode. Mm-hmm. And even in the reverse side, it's, the teams that are supposed to be at the bottom that get these little weird wins every now and again, eventually that starts to even out and the hockey gods go, all right, back down to the bottom you go.
Yeah, enough is enough, right? Well, Dave, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure to see you at Toyota Sports Performance Center and out at Crypto.com Arena. Safe travels home, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, buddy.